are now going to start talking about late adulthood, and this chapter includes physical, cognitive, and mental health issues. So first, let's talk about the demographics of aging. Average age of population. There are more older adults in the population than ever before. Better healthcare and medical advances mean that in developed countries, people are living longer. Remember what we talked about before about the birth rate dropping and people having children later as the average education level rises? Well, what does this mean for countries? So we're having more and more older people, but fewer babies. The average age of people in developed countries will continue to increase, meaning there will be more older adults than children. So what effects does this have on the population? In the US, the larger number of older adults will put a strain on many systems. The pension systems, especially Social Security, healthcare, especially Medicare, Medicaid, and long-term care. The costs of these will be borne by the smaller group of tax-paying workers behind them. So a small group of people will be paying for a larger group of people, and these systems were not designed to work this way. So the social service systems will be strained. The most rapidly growing segment of the population is people over 85. This group will increase nearly 500% between 2000 and 2050. 20 to 29-year-olds will only increase 50% by comparison. People over 85 need more assistance, which will strain the healthcare system. So having an older population puts a lot of strain on a country. So let's talk about some diversity. Older women outnumber older men in all ethnic groups. Women just tend to live longer. The number of older adults in minorities is increasing faster. By 2030, an estimated 85% of older adults will have high school diplomas and 75% will have college degrees. So our population in general is becoming better educated, and better educated people tend to live longer. They have higher income, access to better health care, etc. These trends are happening worldwide. By the year 2040, China is expected to have more than 300 million people over the age of 60. So it's not just our problem. All countries will need to figure out how to deal with the increased need for services to older adults. So here's just a little graph that shows you percent of adults 65 and older. And you can see how in all of the countries represented in this chart, these numbers are growing rapidly. So longevity. The definition of this is the number of years a person can expect to live, jointly determined by genetic and environmental factors. Average life expectancy. This is the age at which half of the people born in a particular year will have died. Okay, that's kind of a weird definition, but it's just sort of a guess of how long your generation is expected to live. Average life expectancy is increasing. This is mainly due to declines in infant mortality and the number of women dying during childbirth, the elimination of major diseases, and improvements in medical technology. As of 2014, the average life expectancy was 81 years old for women and 76.2 years for men. Countries vary widely in life expectancy, reflecting differences in genetics, sociocultural and economic conditions, healthcare, and disease. Now, this is different from the useful life expectancy, number of years that a person is free from debilitating chronic disease and impairment. So this is how long you can be expected to live without being very sick or disabled or impaired in some way. Ideally, this would match the length of a person's life. However, medical technology sometimes allows a person to live even though they can no longer perform daily tasks. So is that life worth living? Medical decisions are increasingly being made with useful life expectancy in mind instead of just number of years. Maximum life expectancy is the oldest age to which any person lives. Scientists estimate that the maximum limit for humans is 120 years old. They think that even with increased healthcare and good genetics, no human can live longer than 120. There are genetic and environmental factors. So you can look at your family. Do they have a history of long-lived individuals? Genetics involve or influence longevity, health, and disease. But environmental factors also influence a lifespan. It could be diseases, toxins, lifestyle, your social class. So genetics and environmental factors interact with each other to determine longevity. There are also ethnic and gender differences. African Americans start with lower longevity than European Americans. However, by the age of 85, they typically outlive them, which means that if African Americans get to 85, they'll live longer. Latino Americans expect to live longer than European Americans at every age. A woman's average is about 5 years more than a man's. These differences are typical of developed countries, but not in developing countries. And the reason for that is that death in childbirth is a big issue in developing countries. So women are dying much sooner there on average. Part of the difference in some countries is the infanticide of baby girls. In countries where they don't want to have girls, and they kill the baby girls and let the baby boys live, and that changes these statistics a little bit. But in general, why do women live longer? Men's rate of dying from 12 of the 15 top causes of death are higher than women. Men are also more susceptible to infectious disease. So here are some graphs. This is what a population is supposed to look like, developing countries. It's supposed to look like a pyramid with a broader, younger base able to support the aging population. So this was in 1950, and this is what it's theoretically supposed to look like. But in developed countries, you start to see this bubble here. It still kind of looks like a pyramid, but it's not as straight as this one. So next, now we're into 2014. In developing countries, we still have the nice pyramid, even though all the groups are getting bigger. But over here, look at this bubble. In 2014, the ages of 20 to about 60 are outnumbering everybody else. And this is what happened as the baby boomers started to age. And this bubble is moving up. But now we don't have the younger population being bigger than the older population the way we need. Now this is the projected pyramids in 2050. Again, we still have a pyramid over here, but everything's getting longer. Okay, people are living longer. Here, though, we still have that bubble, and more people are reaching these higher ages. So again, we have a smaller population up here trying to support a much larger population here. And that puts a strain on social and financial systems. And it's going to be the big issue of your generation, is how to handle this aging population. So now let's talk about physical changes and health. So there's some biological theories. Why do our bodies age and die? There are two major groups of theories. There's the programmed theories and the damage theories. So the programmed theories say that aging is biologically or genetically programmed. Declines in the endocrine and immune systems are part of a genetic program. Aging is therefore a physiological process. The ability of cells to self-destruct and the ability of dying cells to trigger key processes in other cells. But scientists do not understand how this self-destruct process is triggered in the first place. But these theories say that it's just in our genetics of when we start to age and our cells start to die. The wear and tear theory is one subgroup of damage theories. It suggests that the body, much like any machine, gradually deteriorates and finally wears out. This explains some diseases pretty well, such as osteoporosis. There's also cellular theories. They explain aging by focusing on processes that occur within individual cells, which may lead to the buildup of harmful substances or the deterioration of cells over a lifetime. So free radicals are chemicals that are produced randomly during normal cell metabolism and bond easily to other substances inside cells. And they cause cellular damage and impair functioning. So in this theory, aging is caused by the cumulative effect of these free radicals. Free radicals may play a role in some diseases such as cancer, but a healthy diet may postpone some of these age-related diseases. Another cellular theory is cross-linking. They say that some proteins interact randomly with body tissues, such as muscles and arteries. This results in normal elastic tissues becoming stiffer, which can result in serious issues. For instance, heart tissue becoming stiffer makes the heart have to work harder and increases the risk of heart attack. Another theory is that cells have a limited number of divisions. Evidence suggests that telomeres, which are the tips of chromosomes, play a major role in aging by adjusting the cell's response to stress and growth stimulation based on cell divisions and DNA damage. With each cell replication, those telomeres become slightly shorter, and eventually the chromosomes become unstable and cannot replicate anymore. Chronic stress accelerates the change in the telomeres and shortens the lifespan. Aerobic exercise may help maintain telomere length, which may slow the aging process. So in short, we really don't understand aging and why it happens. There's a lot of theories about it. So of all of these theories about aging, which is correct? Is just one of them correct? Is it all of them? Is it something else that hasn't been theorized yet? We just don't know. There's a lot of research that still needs to be done on aging. Okay, physiological changes. First, we're going to talk about how neurons change with age. So just to review, this is what a neuron looks like and how it works. Remember the dendrites, the cell body, the axon, and the terminal buttons. And neurons information flows this way, and the terminal buttons over here send information to the dendrites of other neurons, and that's how everything passes. Okay. So there are changes in neurons that happen as we age. The most important change that occurs normally with age involves the structure and communication of the neurons. So we're going to talk about 3 changes to neurons. The first is neurofibrillary tangles. Fibers that make up the axon sometimes become twisted. The reasons for this are not known, but they interfere with the neuron's ability to transmit information down the axon. Some tangling occurs normally with age, and a large number of these tangles is associated with Alzheimer's disease and dementia. We also see dendritic changes. Some dendrites shrivel and die, which makes it difficult for neurons to transmit information. In some areas of the brain, dendrites continue to grow. Stem cell research indicates that inducing growth might be a way to treat some brain diseases and injuries. Why some degrade and others don't is still a mystery. Scientists still don't really understand it. And then we see neuritic plaques. This occurs when damaged and dying neurons collect around a core of protein. These likely interfere with normal functioning of healthy neurons. It's like a coating of gunk around neurons, and they can't communicate with each other. And a large number of these plaques are present in dementia, so they might be contributing to dementia. Okay, so these changes in neurons might be responsible for a lot of the diseases that we see in the brain in later age. Neurotransmitters. These are the chemicals that pass between neurons for communication. Remember, neurons don't touch each other. They rely on the neurotransmitters to pass the message along. But with age, the levels of neurotransmitters decline. This is believed to be responsible for things such as memory, sleep, and maybe diseases such as Parkinson's. Okay, so these neurotransmitters are really important. So how do we know these things? Well, we know all this stuff through neuroimaging. So structural neuroimaging, these provide detailed images of the anatomical features of the brain. These would include like x-rays, CT scans, MRIs. They help identify bone fractures, tumors, strokes, etc. And then there's functional neuroimaging, which provides an indication of brain activity, but not structures. So this would be an fMRI, PET scans. These are information about which part of the brain are active during different tasks. So by using this structural neuroimaging and functional neuroimaging, we get a really good idea of what's going on inside the brain. And we will continue this in the next video.